Okay. All right. Everybody okay? Everybody good? See? All right. Good.
Yes.
Good. Good. All right. Well, let me leave a note for Andres. Andres, normally we do a little short devotional, and he uses that for marketing purposes and YouTube. But I'm really going to be short on time today. I've got somewhere I have to be at 10:30, so we want to end on time. And there's a lot to cover today, which I know you guys love covering a lot. So, Andres, no devotional today. We're just going to move into the text, okay? So we're in chapter 16, Cal Imperfect weak verbs. The great news is, truthfully, it is a lot to cover, but the reality is we've covered it all already. I mean, we're really not doing much anything new, but there's just so many different pieces it can feel overwhelming. And so I'm going to try to break it down a little slowly, so hopefully we're not overwhelmed, and kind of keep things in their little categories or their buckets. I like to keep things organized, and it helps me to sort of walk through the process. So hopefully we can do that. And to start with, so we're looking at the Cal Imperfect weak verbs, and what we're going to focus on is you already know the Cal Perfect, both strong and weak. And when we talk about weak, we're talking about the gutturals, or the biconsonantal, or the geminate, or sometimes in here in this case we'll find the first noon position or the first yod position. Those can be weak in the imperfect. And so we already have I think hopefully a good handle on the perfect strong and the imperfect strong. I want to go back over that, and then the functions doesn't change, the vocabulary doesn't change. The only thing that changes is typically the vocalization, how we vocalize it, the pronunciation of it, because the vowels change, and sometimes the consonant will change associated with that. But and so we're really trying to just be able to understand what's happening, so you can recognize it and look it up, and be able to understand what's happening there. So it may feel overwhelming, but I'm going to try to keep it to where it's not. So in this chapter, you don't have to learn. There's no new paradigm. You already know the paradigm. You already know the subformatives for the perfect verb classification. You already know the verb conjugation. You already know the subformatives. Excuse me, the subformatives for the perfect conjugation, and the preformatives for the imperfect, as well as the 5 subformatives associated with the perfect. You already know those. We're going to go back through them. The more you do them, the more you get comfortable. The trick is to find the pattern. That's the trick. If you see the pattern, it makes it so much easier. It's less memorization. And I want to kind of touch on that a little bit today and make that a little bit easier. So anyway, so basically we're just looking for those patterns, and any variations or changes to the patterns, then that's really kind of will be your red flag sort of thing. All right, so I'm going to start with here. If we go to the perfect, the verb, well, let me start with first, when we have, come on, there we go. Yeah, what it is. Okay, so we have root 1. Let's say root 1 is an olive. Root 2 is a bait. Root 3, we'll say, is a resh. All right, so most Hebrew verbs, as well as nouns, are 3 consonantal forms, right? In the root form, there's 3 consonants. They have a meaning assigned to them, but the meaning doesn't really apply until you put it in its context. And when you put it in its context, then you're looking at both the stem is added to it, or is defined, as well as the conjugation. So both of those are based on the context, right? So the stem, the cow stem we're in, is focusing on that simple kind of action. And so we're just staying with the simple kind of action. But in the conjugation, we're really talking about how that action is viewed, whether it's ongoing or whether it's completed, if it's ongoing, if it's iterative, or those type of things. So how is that simple kind of action viewed? Is it a completed kind of action or something that's continuous? And that's what the conjugation perfect and imperfect really does. Those are the 2 main conjugations. There are obviously others we're going to get to, but they're the two main. So when we talk about the perfect verb form, we have our three consonants, and then we have the subformatives, right? So we add an ending to it. So here we have our subformative. And here we have our preformatives.
Bro, you are not sharing.
Did I do what?
You are not sharing.
I'm not sharing. How come you guys don't see what I'm doing? Because I didn't do what I'm supposed to do. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have our consonantal forms, and then we have our for a verb in a perfect conjugation, we'll have our subformative. So in the subformatives, I'm trying to do this differently here. Let me change this real quick. All right, so when we're talking about the perfect form, we're emphasizing the subformatives, right? So basically here. And so what is the subformative for the third masculine singular? What ending would I look for?
For the perfect, it stays the same, doesn't it?
Right, there's no ending. It's endingless. That's right. So there's nothing here. So there'd be nothing there, right? That's correct. Now, what about if we need to make that in what would be the ending for, let me clean this up a bit here because that is in my way. What would be the ending for the third masculine singular is endingless. What about the third feminine singular? What ending would I expect there? It's feminine, so that's your big clue, right?
The hey.
You're on the right track, but we don't have any A's. But go ahead.
Hey.
The hey? All right, the hey what?
Yeah. Hey with if it's feminine, then with the shabab.
No, not shabab. Anybody else want to help?
No, be patak.
No, not a patak. You're close.
Kamit.
Yeah. Right. So
That
we're
is
kamete. And then so that would be the ending. So we'd have basically a kamete right here, right? So now if we want instead the second masculine singular, sorry about that. The second masculine singular, what ending would I expect to see?
Is that no? We're talking about the perfect or the imperfect?
We're doing the perfect.
Yeah.
What would be the second masculine singular right there? What would be the ending there? What goes here? It's the same consonant over and over again.
Instead of the kamet is no, I thought it was the other way around. Oh yeah, the other way around. The female.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Try it again. You're close, I think.
Third and second masculine singular. It ends with
Is it Shurek?
Met.
No, it's not a shirt. It's going to be a consonant with a dogish and a vowel. And we're doing the perfect subformative endings, right? I'm trying to emphasize the pattern, and so you can see what's happening over and over again, all right, to hopefully make life easier. What would I expect in the second? What consonant would I want both in the second masculine, the second feminine,
Tav.
the first
That would be
common?
that would be tav patak.
Tav,
Tav
yeah.
kamit.
We want this tav here, and we're going to put a dogash. And for the masculine's always easy for me because I got this little kamate. To me, this kamate here, kamate right there. Okay, I don't want to be too crude here, but reminds me of a guy with versus a girl. Okay, that's all I can say. Yeah. Okay. So now what? Come on. What about the next one? The two FS, right? We're gonna have the same consonant with the dogish. What vowel? It's not really a vowel, but what goes underneath it?
Shiva.
Shiva, that's right. And what about the first common? We're going to also have the same consonant with the dogesh, and what vowel letter goes with it? So I would see this and a vowel letter. What would be the vowel letter? Remember, our vowel letters are unchangeable vowels. They don't reduce.
The yod.
Shrik yod.
Hirik yod, yeah.
Hirik yod, yes, right. Hirik, or there's a yod and a hirik. So that would be, go there. So we have hirik. Actually, hirik yod, excuse me, right there. Okay, very good. And let's see. What about the third masculine? Well, now in it's sort of a trick question. What about in the third masculine? There is no third masculine or third feminine over here. There's only a third common right here, right? So that would be a common plural. What would go there?
Hirik.
Say it again. I think I heard it right.
Hirik.
Not a hirik.
Vav hirik.
Say that again, brother.
That would be vav hirik.
Not a vav hirik. It is a vav, but it's not a vav hirik.
What is it called?
The shirik, right?
Hirik.
That
Okay,
you sound,
was...
that sound, right?
Hirik.
Now, I do want you to remember that because you're going to see that, especially in the suffirmatives for the imperfect. You'll see it again for the imperfect. So we want to remember that. Yeah. So that'd be, oh, come on, stop it. Okay. So the shirik. What about the second masculine and second feminine plural? We're going to keep the same consonant here, okay? So that won't change. That'd be real, make life really easy for you. But the vowel changes, right? There's a vowel underneath it and a final consonant after that.
Final mem.
Yeah, the final mem, okay. What about in the second feminine plural? And then what would be our vowel that we're missing here?
Kamei.
No, not the comates. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. It is the comates. No, it's not. It's not. I was looking in the wrong place.
Patak.
It's the segol, right? So it would be the
Segol, yes.
segol with the final mem. We'd have the segol. Okay, and then our last perfect form would be
the noon and the
singular. What would that be?
The noon and shirik.
Yes, very good. The noon and that shurik right there. And so here's the important thing to remember. Our constants didn't change, right? We still have, hold on a minute, we still have this aleph, this bait, the resh, and all we did is change the ending, and that's going to tell us what? The person, the number, and the gender. Third masculine singular, third feminine singular, second masculine singular, second feminine singular, first common singular, third common plural, second masculine plural, second feminine plural, and then first common plural. That's all that does for us, right? So now you've given the root, basically a person, number, and gender to it in the perfect form. The other thing in the perfect form that occurs, let's change this. In the perfect form is we have our vowel system, right? And typically what we look for is this stem vowel is that potic. And we'll normally see a comma H in the first root position, the stem vowel in the second root position, and then whatever root 3 is. And so your second root position becomes really important as a diagnostic feature, the stem vowel it's called. And when you see that changes, oftentimes that will help you recognize, oh, that must be an imperfect, or that must be some other conjugation, or even a different stem later on. Does that make sense? You guys see what's happening, right? It makes sense to you. Nobody's like just totally lost or something. So. Stop that. Okay. Write that differently. All right, so that's the perfect form, and that's what you would expect to see, right? The comates, a product with these various person, number, and gender endings. Now we're going to switch and move towards the imperfect. What are we expecting to see in terms of our okay. All right, what are we expecting to see in terms of our person, number, and gender? Well, now we're going to have this performative, right? There'll be a performative for a prefix, right? And so what will be the prefix or the performative for the third masculine singular?
They have Herrick Joe.
Yeah, Herrick Yo, right? So we want to do this Herrick. For time's sake, I'm just going to run through this bit, but I really want you guys to take part in this, okay? The Herrick Yod, right? Now, the great thing about that is that's also going to be in your third masculine plural, right? You see a pattern there? It's the third masculine plural. So all the third person singular masculine is going to be the Herrick Yod. The other fantastic thing is that almost everything is going to be a Herrick in terms of the vowel, the subformative vowel. It's called the performative vowel, excuse me. Everything's going to be Herrick. And we're going to, now where we have the tav here at the tav over here, now we're going to use the tav over and over again. not on the first. We'll use the tav here. And I got to move all that there. Tav here. Tav here and out on the comma. All right, so I'm using the tav over and over again. What goes in it? What is my vowel letter? What vowel do I use?
The doggish.
Well, I don't need a doggish. But what vowel letter do I? What vowel, not vowel? What vowel do I need?
The hear.
Heuric, over and over again, guys. That's it. Heuric, 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 heuric. All right, so I've got the same thing over and over again. And then on the first common singular, it is unique, and the first
That's the
common
aleph.
plural are unique, right?
Mhm.
So what goes in the first common singular?
The aleph
Right, exactly. The aleph with what vowel letter or vowel?
with a kameh.
Not a kamates.
Kameh. Or is the seagull?
Right. And then down here on the first common plural, we have the noon, and again with the heuric, right? So the great thing about trying to memorizing and learning these performatives is you really are just seeing the same pattern over and over. Your third masculine forms with a singular plural is going to have a heuric yod vowel letter, right? Excuse me, I wrote that wrong. Let me fix that real quick. I wrote that wrong. You guys should correct me. There. And there, like that. Okay. So it is the yod with the vowel heuric. So not a vowel letter, but the yod with the vowel heuric. And so you just sort of kind of see the pattern over and over. But you also have in the imperfect 5 subformatives. So there's 5 letters, or 5 in the second feminine singular, and then all the third and second person plurals will have 5 additional subformatives, right? They're going to have the same tav, if I remember right. No, it doesn't. I remembered wrong. I actually did it wrong. It's going to have here will be the vowel letter heuric yod. That's where I was getting confused. And on the masculine, this is the thing that makes it easy, is that shurik, both masculines. And on the feminines, they're going to be the same. They're going to be the noon with the shirt, or with the kamete, I mean. Trying to find a spot to write it so you can see it, but it goes here. So I guess what I'm trying to highlight here is that over and over, this is what you're going to see for the imperfect. For the perfect, you'll see these. Okay, once you sort of get comfortable with that, now what will change often will be these vowels. Because you've extended the form, excuse me, you extended the word either direction. And as a result, you'll get a lot of vowel changing to it. You'll also have, because on weak verbs, you'll have the consonants change because they're weak. All right, so I'm going to clear all this, most of this. Let me see, because I'm going to do one more thing here before we move on. Well, let me just do it this way. It's taking too much time. Okay, Ben. No, not that one. I want to use that one. Not that one. Don't want to create confusion. Is this this Hebrew verb, is that a weak or strong verb? Just talking
That
about,
is a weak.
is it weak? Why is it weak?
As it has a gatra aleph as the first root.
Okay, so that's why it's called a first guttural, right? And that's the first guttural. So when the first guttural is there, that can impact not only the verb forms or the vowels, but that can impact in some cases the performances that are in front of it. And so depending upon what it is, let me change this and do this. If I change it to I'm just making these up, so I don't know they're real by any means. So, Jeremiah, is this a weak or strong verb? Just this concept, is that a weak or strong?
That is weak because it's
Right.
got
And what kind of weak? How would you classify it?
second guttural.
Yeah, so it's just really a second. Okay. A second guttural. And so you get the picture now. If we do the same thing over here, that would also be a weak. It's a third, actually be a third hey, right? And so because those gutturals are weak, they can change and fall off. And because they come up against either the sufformative or the performative, we'll see changes not only in the gutter in the consonant itself, but oftentimes in the vowel system itself. And we can have vowels. That's what you got to just see what's happening here, okay? And that's all we're looking at. The verb itself remained the same. The meaning remained the same. Its usage, if it's imperfect, it's going to be something that's continuous, ongoing, and incomplete, not completed. And our translation will reflect that. But depending upon what the performatives is, will determine whether it's first, second, third, or first, second, third, or first person, singular or plural, and whether or not it has one of these sufformatives will help us determine that. That's the structure. And it hopefully that helps you kind of just sort of put it in perspective. And now I want to move on here. So does that make sense, you guys? Okay. All right. Well, probably, maybe you already knew all that. Maybe you knew it, but I just want to go. And I want to go over this because some of these changes here are quite comprehensive. Okay, so we're going to talk about now first gutturals. There are three types of first gutturals. So we can have what's called a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3. That just means some verbs are more prefer a type 1 change, some verbs prefer a type 2 change, some verbs type 3 change. That's all that's really talking about. So you can see three different kinds of changes for some verbs. And so a first guttural, and there's our first root position, our second root position, and our third root position, and that is our performative. All right, so that's our structure. And under a type 1 verbs, what we'll have is we'll have the product as the stem vowel. That's our stem vowel. So the second root position will prefer a product. And no, prefer a product, I'll leave it there. And then the first guttural, now a guttural cannot take a vocal schwa. So what happens is it takes a segol performative vowel, or excuse me, a hatef segol. So we get this hatef segol, right? The segol with the hatef. You get all those little dots, and you're like, just like an eye chart. But what also happens under first type 1 gutturals is the performative vowel becomes a segol right there. No longer the heroic, right? You would expect that heroic here underneath the ode, but instead it's going to be the segol. And you'll also see, of course, the segol, hatef segol under the first guttural position. So that's what changes on a type 1. So you just want to be aware that some first gutturals, weak verbs, it's a weak verb because it's a first guttural in the imperfect, and because it's coming up against this subformative, there can be changes that you don't see in the perfect. And so, because you didn't see a lot of changes in the first guttural and the perfect, but in the imperfect you do. Why? Well, you're adding something to the beginning. That's going to force changes. And so that's what I believe is happening. Okay. So, you have your stem vowel is a product. You have the first guttural position is going to be the hatef segol. And then we're going to have where you would expect to see a heroic yod, you get a heroic segol. And that's what a type 1 does. Okay, does that make sense? You see what's happening? Okay, so 3 types. That's number 1 for first gutturals. Let's look at number 2. Well, let's look at the whole thing, the whole picture. Here's the good news. It's consistent. It's pretty consistent. So our root 1, root 2, root 3, and here's our performative, right? And then where appropriate is the subformative. And so in all cases, the heroic under the performative changes to a segol. Now, what's kind of neat is put in normally right here, that's what you normally have. Well, this normal now spreads to everywhere. That's all that really happened, right? And because this first root position is a guttural, it cannot take a vocal schwa. Instead, it takes a hatef, one of the reduced vowels, the hatef segol. And then the stem vowel prefers a product. And so you see the same thing over and over. Now, you don't see it here. And you don't see it, let's see, here. And the reason is that is a vowel, and that is a vowel, and that is a vowel. And so you don't see it in those places. Because you end it with a vowel and not a consonant. That's a consonant. It ends with a consonant. This ends with a vowel, and so that forces this change here. That's all that's happening. It's not a big deal. But you might wonder, well, why is that not a product? Well, it's not a product because it ended with a vowel instead of ended with a consonant. That's why. So when I add these subformatives over here for that one, and for that one, and for the subformative there, they're vowel letters, and that's going to force this stem vowel, which is normally a product, to be a segol. The schwa, excuse me. Okay? So that's type 1. That's all that changed, guys. Notice how it compares to the strong verb. Notice how it compares to the strong verb. We would expect to see our yod, heroic with heroic underneath all the different letters except for here. That's what we expect to see. What's happened is we get the same consonants. They didn't change. Those are going to be very consistent, right? They didn't change, but the vocalization changed. We expect to see a vocal schwa here, and that's what we have is a vocal schwa, right? I think it's vocal, right? With a short vowel preceding, that would make it vocal. I believe that's right. I gotta double check that. Hold on a minute. I always get them backwards, guys. Not like I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so a shava is silent if its previous vowel is short. So it's a silent shava. Sorry. So that is a silent shava, which makes more sense. Okay. And here we get a hatep, reduced vowel, hatep patak. And then we got our stem vowel. So those are the changes we see, right? You see what's happening? We're okay? Everybody see it? All right. If I'm boring you, I'm working hard to do that. So staying with first gutturals, type 2, right? Instead of having the patak on the stem vowel, we're going to have a holum on the stem vowel. Instead, we still have a hatef, but instead of having a hatef sagol, we have a hatef patak under the. This is still the first guttural, and instead of having the sagol under the performative, we have the patak. Well, that aligns with the. I mean, they're both the same, so that's what you would expect. Over here, that's a sagol because that's a hatef sagol. This is a patak because that's a hatef patak. So in the type 2, root position 1, root position 2, root position 3, we get that holum back that we are used to in the perfect. This patak was a hirik, and this is a reduced hatef patak, and that's what changed. So we see the same thing over and over, same consonants, they didn't change. All the consonants are the same. Instead of having the hirik, though, underneath them, we have the patak. And that remained its sagol. And notice when it's a sagol, so is the first guttural. Here is the hatef patak, hatef patak, hatef patak. Why would that be a patak? Why would that be a patak? Why would that be a patak and not a hatef patak? Anybody know? The answer is because it ended with a vowel and not a consonant. See, this ends with a consonant. This ends with a vowel, and that's what's driving that change. And that's what's making this a shava. You know? That's what's happening there. So type 1, well, we'll go over that in a minute. So our type 2s, we're going to see the performative go to a patak. We're going to see the first guttural go to a reduced hatef patak. And we're going to see our holum come back. Compared to the strong, right? The strong would be the hirik. Here we have the patak. The strong would have the silent shava. Here we have the reduced hatef patak, and here we keep the holum there. That's generally what we would see. When we go to the type 3, right? So there's 3 types of first guttural, still first guttural, and that's with the first olive. When you've got a first olive, that's definitely going to change things because olive is weak. It could be quiescent, in other words, silent. And if you put 2 olives together, they certainly don't like 2 olives. So what generally happens is the hirik that what you'd expect there is the holum. That becomes quiescent. There's no vocalization to it, and we get our patak stem vowel. So those are the changes that occur. So when we go here, if you compare to the strong, we have the hirik under the performative, and instead here we have the holum. The olive is quiescent, it's quiescent, it's quiescent, no sound, no voice to it. We have the same consonants on the performative, they didn't change. The same consonants, so that should help you recognize things. But we have the holum under for the performative. So that's the holum for the performative. No vocalization for the first root letter, right? The root 1, root 2, no vocalization. It's quiescent, it's silent, and we get our patak stem vowel. And as you would expect, what happens when you add a vowel to the end and with no consonant is you'll get some change to the structure, and that's why you get the shava at the end there. That's all that is. So putting it all together, first gutturals, there are 3 different types. These are all first gutturals, 1, 1, 1. First guttural can have a type 1 change, which can use the segol for the performative. Can have a type 2 change, which can use the podic for the sufformative, or type 3, which will use the holum for the sufformative. That's really all that's happening. Make sense? Now, what happens here, just to add a little bit, is you would expect, what you would normally see is, oh, wait a minute, this is a first, second, and third, and I need to add my performative with the olive for the first common singular. Well, actually, what happens is that first drops out, and that is the performative. And that's all that really happens. It's not a big deal because you get everything else is the same. I mean, you don't even think really, oh, there's a missing olive. Well, there is a missing olive, but you really won't even think about it. Okay, so that's what's happening in the first gutturals. There's 3 different types that can occur, and the performative vowels will change, either a segol, a podic, or a holum, versus what you would expect as a heroic. Or you'll have, when you have a quiescent olive, which is what we already talked about, the 3 different types. So, okay. All right, now second gutturals. About the same kind of thing, right? Here's our first position, second position, and third position. We're talking about second gutturals only, and there are also third hay and third ion. Why second gutturals and third hay and third ion? Because they act exactly the same. So just to make it grouping, makes it easier. Basically, the second gutturals and third ion verbs are going to have a podic stem vowel and not the holum. You would expect a holum generally for the perfect form. That's our standard. And the holum is not there. Instead, it has the podic stem vowel. It's not a big deal. That's all that really happens. We also get our third olive, which is going to be silent, quiescent. And it's going to cause that podic to change to a kamates. Well, that makes sense because I have this silent quiescent. I'm not going to I can't put a vowel there. So it's going to cause that to sort of lengthen to a kamates. That's what's happening on these 3 changes. So let's walk through them real quick. Try to clean up. All right. Second gutturals. 1 position, 2 position, 3 position. Second gutturals and the third het and third ion and the third olive. All right. Basically, we have the podic. The stem vowel is going to be the podic. That's it. Come on. Okay. Again, second gutturals, right? Second gutturals, but this time, same place. Second gutturals, first, second, and third. If I add in my remember in the 2FS, the 3MS, and 2FS, 3FS and 2FS. There you go. Those are going to have vowel letters at the ending, right? And they'll have the shurik and the shurk. They'll have vowel letters. Well, that's going to cause this to be a shavah, but it can't be a shavah because it's a guttural. So all it is a hatef podic. It's a reduced vowel. You already know that rule. So our 2FS, our 3MP, excuse me, that's right. Our 3MP and 2MP. I had it written right. I just had to look at it. We'll change to a hatef vowel. Because of this lengthening of the vowel, we normally get a shavah there. Instead, you just get a reduced vowel instead. So we see our performatives are exactly the same, nothing changed. We love that. Our first root position, pretty much the same, nothing changed. Our second root position, the key is that is a podic. Now, that is a reduced hatef vowel, podic, and only because we added a vowel at the end of it. Not a lot of change here, okay? But so you see what's happening, right? So second gutturals, that's what happens. The same thing's going to happen to the third het and third ion, the exact same thing. So let's go to third het and third ion. So the third het and third ayin ones, look, same thing. That's it. And so when we go, there we go, same thing. All these remain the same. That makes life so much simpler. And basically our stem vowel becomes the potty, except where there is a vowel letter ending, and then that stem vowel changes to a shava, a vocal shava. Okay? And that's all there is to that. So first, second guttural, third het, third ayin, now third olive. Pretty much the same thing, except now instead of the padak, it's a kamates. That's all that happens. So, and so my daughter's calling me. Sorry, babe, busy. In our third feminine, okay, well, let's stay in the third olive here. In the third olive, in the third feminine and second feminine plurals, we added this the noon kamates hey to it. They're the same for the third feminine and second feminine plurals. That second root position, first, second, and third, instead of the kamate, it changes to a sagol. I don't really know why, it just does. So you'll see a sagol there instead. Okay, so here it's a kamates, but here, because for these two, it is a sagol. And so when we look at the third olive, basically you see this, all our performances are the same. That makes life so much, the performances are the same. So it's easy to recognize that it's in an imperfect, first, second, or third, singular, plural, masculine, or feminine. It's really easy to recognize once you sort of get comfortable with that. And what you see the changes is instead of that being a padak or a holum, it is a kamates. Of course, it's not going to be when you add the vowel letters, it'll become a shavah, because the vowel letter. And on these two, the lengthened, those become a sagol. That's all that happened there. Compare it to our strong verbs in the imperfect form. Everything's the same in the performative. We would normally get the holum right there, but instead we're getting this kamates. Okay, that's all that's happening. Second gutturals, third het and third ayin, and third olive. Make sense? Okay. And so here's the big picture. So our second gutturals, this is what we see changed because this is what we would expect to see. These did not change. These did not change. In the third het, third ayin, this is what changed because that's what we would expect to see. And again, the performances did not change. In the third olive, we would expect to see this in the first, second, and third position. We'd expect to see a holum there, but we get the kamates instead. And the olive is quiescent, silent. And again, there's no changes here. Really pretty straightforward. It is a lot to absorb, but you don't have to memorize any of this, guys. You don't have to remember or memorize it. Just be aware of what's happening so that when you see it, you can one, recognize that it is an imperfect, right? It is the imperfect with the performatives and subformatives. And then kind of understand what's happening to it and what's changed to it. Mostly vocalization changes. All right, moving on. Okay, now what does change is the first yod and first noon. Because what happens to a first yod is you're adding a subformative, a performative, when it's typically another yod, right? That's our performative, and we're adding a performative to it. So we'll see changes that occur, both a type 1 and a type 2. We'll also see changes in the word halak, to walk. The changes are the same. I don't know why in halak. It likes this change. It does the exact same thing. And I think it has to do with what did a hay used to be before it was a hay? It was a yod. And so it has something to do with that. So we're going to look at the three types of changes. I don't have individual slides for them. We're just going to go over it here. Hold a minute. I want to clean up. All right, first yod, type 1 and type 2. Same thing happens. When I add a performative to a first yod, right? This is the 1, 2, 3. When I add a yod to it, the actual root drops off and the performative stays, but the hierarch changes to a sere. That's what happens. And we also see the stem vowel change to a sere. Those are your diagnostic features. You lose the first root consonant, which is a yod. And in the type 1, the sere performative vowel, that's this sere performative right here, is a sere. And in the type 2, well, let me just finish this because, come on. Oh, okay, we have it. Our root 1 position dropped off, root 2 and root 3. And as a result, our performative vowel changes from a hierarch to a sere. And the stem vowel becomes what you would expect is the holum, but it becomes a sere as well. Again, when you add a vowel at the end, then that stem vowel is going to change, and it changes. Here's our stem vowel. Oh, here's our stem vowel. It will change to, well, not there. There we go. There we go. It will change to Shabbat. When you, that's enough. I don't want to get too confusing. In the type 2, the exact same thing happened. The only difference is instead of that yod dropping off, it actually becomes a vowel letter, and it becomes the hierarch yod. That's the only difference. So it looks like it actually retained. There's the first root position, second root position, third root position. So a type 2 looks like it actually retains the yod. Here it drops that yod, but here it retains it, but it changes to a vowel letter. And you should be able to recognize that because there's no vowel underneath it. There's nothing underneath this. So it's a vowel letter, right? Vowel letter. That's all that's happened to it, okay? Clean it up so we're not too messy. Now, the word halak means to walk around. And because the hay used to be a yod, it functions the same way as the type 1. My wife is in class, and my daughter, what time is it? Yeah, she's driving to work, and she always calls, and she can't get the wife, so she calls me. This first root position here, this hay, first, second, third, functions the same way as a type 1, probably, I believe, because that used to be a yod years and years and years ago. And so it functions the same way. And so it drops off, and it does the exact same thing as this. And that's what happens to the word halak. So you have a type 1 change where the first yod drops, and you get the sagol instead of the hierarch on the performative. You have a type 2 change where basically that the seemingly the first root position yod stays, but it changes to a vowel letter. And then you have the word halak, where the exact same thing happens as a type 1, where the hay drops out, and you basically get the sere added to here. Notice how all the performatives stayed the same, as well as the subformatives. So you should still recognize the imperfect. The problem is, can you recognize the word to look it up? That's why we're talking about these changes. Okay? All right. I think only one or two more, I think. Yeah, we got plenty of time. Good. Okay, first noon and halak, same thing happens. Well, kind of the same thing happens, right? A noon is a weak letter, and you put it and like the yod by itself is not weak, but when you put it in the beginning and you put another yod by it in front of it, what you do with the performative, it's going to make it weak, and that's what happens. The noon, same thing happens. It becomes weak, especially it is already weak, weaker than most, not as weak as the hay, but its first root position, it seemingly drops off. It didn't really drop off. It's still there in that dogish. Look at the dogish. It's still there in the dogish. But notice how the performatives all stayed the same. But the dogish is actually picking up that the noon assimilates, right? The noon basically goes into the second root position with the dogish. You've seen that a million times. So that's nothing really new. But that's what's happening here. So the issue is going to be is, can you recognize the word, right? And so when you have this word right here, you might think, oh, 1, 2, 3. That's not correct. That is the performative. And this is 2 and 3. And there's number 1 right there in that dogish. Okay. And that is the noon. That's what's happening there. That's going to be a little harder to recognize. But, you know, I don't know what to tell you. And that is from the rule we did from 5.5. It's called the Skinner-Levy rule, right? Where you have certain assimilations occur as a result of the samek, the kaf, the noon, the mem, the lamed, the vav, and the yod. Those will then assimilate, and that's what's happening. It assimilates into the dogish. Okay. And what's called the word halak, excuse me, not halak, lakach. I forget what that means. I wrote it down. Let me see if I could find it in the first noon. I did write it down. Where's it at? I looked them all up. Oh, that's the one I didn't write down. Okay. Well, I don't know what it means. Somebody can look it up. All right. So here, what's happening, if you look on page 168, the verb laka, to take. There we go.
Take, yeah.
Yeah. To take, yeah. The verb to lakach, to take, inflects like the first noon. So it functions just like the first noon does, right? Where the lamet is going to assimilate into this second root consonant as the dogish forte. But notice, though, it says the dogish forte is given up in the second feminine singular and the third masculine plural, and in the second masculine plural. And it says due to the rule of Skinner-Levy 5.5, the verb occurs frequently, so you might want to be familiar with it. So this word lakhak, to take, does the same thing as the first noon. That's all they're saying. Okay. And what the doubly weak, where you got more than one weak consonant, like the noon. There's our first, second. They're both weak. The first noon is weak. Okay, it's only weak because you're adding the performative to it. So weak because it's a first noon with the performative added, and then of course the first guttural or second guttural here is added there, so that makes it doubly weak, right? What's really nice about this is none of our performatives changed, nor did our subformatives change. All right, so basically on the doubly weak, look on page, where's that at? Page 171. Yeah, it's still okay. Still, it still functions the same thing. It's all the same, really. We have our performatives are the same. Here's our first, second, and third. And I'm not sure what they're trying to highlight here, other than to say that let's see, I'm not to the third hey yet. That's next. Yeah, I want third hay. Yeah, we're talking about third hay on page 171, and that's going to be the next slide. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to bring up there. There's just not that much to it, I don't think. So unless I'm missing something. And third hay, what's really easy about third hay is normally we would see this hay with a com H. You're used to seeing that. Now you see hay with Seagull. Okay. Remember, it's third hay. In other words, it is a route 1 position, route 2 position, and route 3. And basically that drops and you get this Seagull hay instead of the Cummings hay. But that's basically what happens to it. And you've seen that before. It's not really new. The only difference here is that some places in the 3FP and the 2FP, that hay, remember, used to be a yod, and it reverts back to a yod when that word gets lengthened with the new Cummings hay, which kind of makes sense because it's ending with a Cummings hay. So it's instead of having the hay again, it uses the goes back to the yod. You don't have to memorize all these. You just need to be aware of what's changing and start to understand what's changing. What you need to memorize are the performatives and the suffirmatives. And if you know those, and then you're aware, oh, that's route 1, that's route 2, route 3, then you can go, okay, that's not route 1, that's a performative. That's route 1, that's route 2, and that's route 3. So wait a minute, that's not a route 3. That's actually a change because it was a third hay. It's not a big deal because you went from a third hay Cummings to a third hay Seagull. I'm like, okay, it's you don't need to memorize that. You just need to be aware of it, and that's what they're bringing out. Okay. And geminates. Just like everything else, we have different types. There's a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3 geminate. Geminate, of course, is where basically it normally would be that's our geminate, right? And so you'll have some, and this is our performative. There's a subformative, performative, subformative, subformative. Okay. And so what happens is you don't have this third piece. Instead, you have the holum there. That's what a type 1 does. It takes the holum. Well, we like the holum because the holum aligns with the strong. Strong is our baseline to work from, our foundation. So we like the holum. It makes it easier. But then you notice, oh, I got my performative here. I know it's an imperfect. It's not a strong or a strong, weak. It doesn't really matter if it's weak or strong. It doesn't change the translation. The type 2 does the same thing, except that second geminate is right there in the doggish. Okay, that's all that happens. The type 3 instead changes to the potic. And that's all that really happens. Biconsonantals. This is the last one, I think. Oh, yeah. Okay. Remember our biconsonantals, they only have 2 letters. That's why it's called bi, 1, 2, right? That's it. Well, in the perfect form, that's what you see are the 2 letters. That's what you see. So you'd see come like that. That's what you see in the perfect. But you can't find come in the lexical form. You have to find it in its infinite construct form, which we hadn't got to yet. But all that means is we put this medial vowel letter in the middle. So we put a vowel letter, and it's called medial, in the middle. We put a medial vowel letter in there, and that's what. And so that medial vowel letter is how you look it up. So when you see that's a root 1, root 2, a biconsonantal, but you're going to look it up with one of the medial vowel letters. So it's either going to be a shuric, a heric yod, or a holem vav, all vowel letters. The great thing about Cal imperfect form, this is Cal, right? Imperfect for the 3MS. There's our 3MS performative, and it looks exactly like the lexical form. And so when you go through the paradigm, you're going to get your lexical forms, and they're all the same. And the performatives and the subformatives are all the same. And you have the vowel letters, medial vowel letters there for in between the perfect or the two consonants. And that's all that is. Okay, it's a lot, but basically, here's a picture of all the things. So the first yod, remember the first yod? First yod, we can have the yod drops, and we get a saray. The first noon, you get the same thing, and you can see it there in the assimilates in the second root position. This is the second root position because this would be the first, and it assimilated into the second with the saray, or the dagish. In the third hay, well, it's just a third hay with a sagol. And the geminate, well, the geminate letter is not present, but you have the holem, and the holem, or you'll have, which is not shown here, yeah, or you can have the dagish, yeah. And that's all they're trying to do, guys. It's a lot, I know. Yeah, that's just practice stuff. That kind of at least makes sense. You see what's happening to these. Here's the key, and that's why I started with this slide. Okay, and I know it was kind of boring to you, and I apologize, but I started with this slide for a reason, is because it's very important to see what's really happening here and not get overwhelmed by it. You know, you're always going to have your root consonant 1, root consonant 2, root consonant 3, but when you add weak consonants to it, along with the performatives or the subformatives, that will force changes. Those weak consonants will change. The hey may change to a yod or may drop. The aleph may go quiescent. The vowel system may change. Instead of having the holem here, it might be the potic, or it might be the saray over, well, the saray in the here. Those kind of changes occur, but you still have an imperfect verb with 3 root consonants, although 1 or 2 may have dropped or changed. So, that makes sense? You okay? It's a lot, and I know it's on a discussion forum, but it's a lecture, and it's way, I don't know how else to do it. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, any question? I hate to even ask. I know it's overwhelming. Any questions? Any thoughts? All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you have, of course, the quiz for this chapter, quiz 16, for chapter 16. I forget the quiz number. Because we skip chapters, the quiz numbers don't align always with the
Be quiz 14.
Quiz 14. That makes sense. Yeah. Next week we don't have class. There are no classes next week. It's our Thanksgiving holiday week, so we shut down. So we'll pick up classes the first week of December, I think it is. I'm looking at my calendar real quick. We'll start back in. Let's see. I'm in 2026 here. So yeah, next week are no classes. Classes will start again on 1 December for Monday, 2 December for our class, and so forth. But you have class this week. On Friday, you'll have your review, and Damien and Andres hope to try to get into more reading as we move further on. So they're moving that direction. I know they're talking about it. So before the end of the week, though, I will have quiz or test number 2. out there on the LMS. I'll send you a note. I'll keep it short. And ideally, try to get it done during the holiday period if you can. But it is a holiday. I don't want to overwhelm you. But you need to have it done before we come back on our first class on December 2nd, which gives you a little over a week. I'll get it out there hopefully tomorrow because I'm traveling tomorrow. So I'm going to get it before I leave. And I'll keep it under 10 questions. There'll be translations. And we're going to cover, I think it's chapter 10 with the construct chain. Remember that. And then we're covering the first 4 chapters. We're going to cover the perfect, strong, perfect, weak, imperfect, strong, and imperfect, weak. So those 5 areas, okay? That's what we'll cover. So the construct chain, where you can, construct chain, you can say of God, of, it's how we kind of give a relationship there. And then the perfect and imperfect form, strong and weak. Really strong and weak, for your part, it's just translation. You're not really, you don't really care if it's strong or weak. You just have to be able to recognize it. So whether it's a perfect or imperfect form, so that you can make the proper translation. Okay. Make sense? All right. Am I good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have any questions or problems, just give me a call or text or something. I'll be glad to try to clarify something.
All right.
All right. And if those of you who sent me quizzes, I'll try to get them graded. I will get them graded before I leave tomorrow because I need to get all that out of the way before I go. So.
Are you
Okay.
also looking at the quizzes that I uploaded on the LMS?
Yeah, if it's on the LMS, I get a notification automatically. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay.
And so, all right, that's it.
All right. All right.
Let's close with a
Okay.
prayer. Our Father in heaven, we
Thank
thank
you.
you. I'm sorry, ready? Father in heaven, we thank you for another day to serve and glorify you in all things. We thank you for the students and for the school and the instructors and the desire to learn and grow, for each of us to grow closer to you through your greater knowledge and application of your word. We hope that we can use this in a manner that's pleasing to you. Others will come to know you through your words and our deeds. We ask your blessing upon us and upon those that we know are struggling, and we be your vessels of comfort and strength in their time of need. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Thank you, brothers.
Amen.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day, brother.
I'll too. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.